There's like Stranger Things kids in this movie, and they sucked. They were really underwritten and underdeveloped.
They went full-on satirical nonsense
Yeah.
right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really like this movie. I'll just say that.
Would you recommend the movie?
Stop. Stop the video. Stop!
Hey, welcome to Proper Horror Show. I'm going to be doing something a little bit unusual today in that I'm going to be reviewing a recent movie. If you've watched a few of my other vids, you know I tend to focus on older stuff and I tend to be doing more analytical videos. I was hanging around on r/scary movies and someone posted that the Child's Play remake was out in Netflix UK. And I'm a massive fan of the series, so I thought, okay, I'm going to watch this. Now, even though I'm a massive fan of the original and I tend to focus on older movies, I don't actually think that horror remakes are inherently going to be bad. And I feel the need to specify this is a remake and not a reboot.
Also, I think that we all know by now that the new Child's Play movie is actually a reboot, not a remake. So it's not a direct remake of the original storyline.
No, it is a remake, not a reboot. It is the same characters again. There is no link to the previous continuity. Therefore, it is a remake. Look folks, this channel has two modes, petty and pretentious. I try and vary it up a bit for you guys, you know? I feel the need to specify this is not actually Child's Play cosplay. I just wear this all the time. But it is kind of apt, isn't it? As I said, I'm not automatically against updates of horror. You know, The Thing is a great example of that working. I'm not against remakes of horror. Suspiria is a fantastic example of the remake actually exceeding the original. You can say the same for The Thing, of course, and Invasion of the Body Snatchers. But what did get me worried was the fact that the creator of Child's Play, Don Mancini, had no involvement with the film, and neither did any of the cast, and that is actually very unusual. That was a little bit of a warning sign for me. So I sat down, got my popcorn, and started to watch, and I struggled to finish this movie. I was close to giving up on it 10 minutes in because the problems with the film were already very apparent by that point. For your benefit and entertainment, I'm going to list them now.
Spoilers incoming.
Now, okay, this actually started out well for me. I really liked that there was the shiny corporate advert that was then contrasted with the grimy reality of production in a Vietnamese factory. I liked that a heck of a lot. That seemed very in keeping for me. But unfortunately, this sort of cynical, ironic, sarcastic Gen X tone infects the entire movie. The casting of Aubrey Plaza as the main character is kind of a harbinger of that. Aubrey Plaza's whole career seems to be playing this character who's essentially too cool and sarcastic for the movie they're in. It didn't work for me. It gave the whole film a very sort of weary, tired, negative, nihilistic feeling. That wasn't fun. Like the start of Scream 4, I felt it was almost doing the sort of irony as armor. Like if you point out any flaws in the film, then the film's already there saying, yeah, I know, I don't care, I'm ironic. Having a scene where the characters just mock classic horror films, that does not endear the film to me as a classic horror fan. In the Child's Play remake, as it's updated, the cast is very diverse. I mean, it's set in an inner city, that's what you'd expect. But there was a major diversity fail in the film. They decided to make this Andy deaf, or at least have sort of compromised hearing. And then they completely forgot that he was. At numerous points, the script just completely forgets that he's deaf. He regularly removes his hearing aid and suffers no impact on his hearing at all. Now, hearing loss is, of course, super variable, but it almost felt like a virtue signal that they forgot about. If you're going to have disabled characters, that's totally cool and doesn't need to serve plot at all. But what it does need to do is, I think, represent their lives a bit more closely. If you're going to have a deaf character, make his hearing issues realistic. If you want to see this done well, look at Hush. So this is obviously the biggest issue that people seem to have with this film, and it tends to be the first one they comment on. I wanted to leave this till later because it is a purely subjective criticism, but gosh darn, I hate that redesign. You've also got to say the film goes out of its way to support that criticism. When they dedicate a 3-minute scene to Andy pointing out how goofy Chucky looks, really makes it hard to see the dude as scary later. Again, this feels like a case of the Child's Play remake using irony as armor. Hey, if you think Chucky looks stupid now, yeah, so do they, so you can't criticize them for it. Next up is the number of problems with the tone, not just the sarcasm, but the fact that they seem to struggle to balance comedy and horror. Now, comedy horrors absolutely work. I love Brain Dead, or Dead Alive if you're in the US. And the Child's Play series has always worked a lot with comedy horror, especially in the 4th and 5th entries in the series. But in this one, it really felt like the balance was much more shifted towards comedy, towards mocking. And then that has a really weird impact when they try and be more scary. The gore in this film is actually quite extreme, and I don't really have a problem with that. But it works very weirdly in contrast with the attempt to be more funny. It's a fine balance, and this is more my personal judgment, but I've got to say that didn't work for me. This is going to be really personal as a criticism. What I mean by this is, personally, I have a really hard time watching anything with animal cruelty in it. I can't go near the Blackfish documentary. Whenever animals get hurt in horrors, that impacts me a hell of a lot more than humans and children. It's a personal judgment, but I just cannot watch animals be hurt. It's really difficult for me. And very early on in this movie, the first thing that Chucky kills is a cat. He strangles it and later on kills it, and that is just really nasty for me. Going from sarcastic humour to this really unpleasant scene of animal cruelty back to light-hearted humour was really jarring for me, completely took me out of the movie. In terms of character reaction, Andy sees his cat abused and then murdered, and then he just hides it and it becomes a comedy thing. That really did not endear Andy to me at all. I hate this movie. I don't want to just rag on the film because there was a lot of stuff that was good in it. Visually, apart from the redesigned Chucky doll, I thought this film looked really good. It was well shot and crisp. There was this shot here that reminds me of a bit in the first Silent Hill game in the fake Virgin Megastore. But in contrast to that, in the finale, the scene with the drones, that really reminded me weirdly of the Club Massacre in Hellraiser 3. So kind of a mixed bag visually, but generally the film looked very good. The gore was very well done. Death by Rotivator is pretty nifty.
Let's play.
I want to really reiterate what I said at the start. A remake and an update of Child's Play didn't have to be bad, and I don't think was doomed from the start. Changing Chucky from a doll possessed in a voodoo ritual by a serial killer. God, the sentences you have to say in this hobby. Changing Chucky from that to an AI that's gone rogue. It's not necessarily a bad idea. It could have worked out very well. I personally found it less interesting, but there was a lot that they could do with that. It makes a normie yet valid point that you probably heard 100 times about how smartphones and connected technology are making us disconnected from each other. That's cool. But I want to commend the film for actually going beyond that and building on that message and having an original take. Now, Kaplan Industries is obviously a stand-in for Google and the huge tech companies who are well known for having a frankly disturbing level of information on all of us. Being a smart technology, Chucky has access to all of this. You know, Chucky showing the creepy and disturbing level of information he has on everyone, I think that's pretty original. It's a genuine threat, it's quite innovative, and the film showing that Chucky can abuse this information just because the safeguards come off really, I guess, is saying, what do you think these companies might do if regulations change? That is pretty disturbing, and, you know, good on you film for coming up with that. This strikes me as a genuine warning about the way smart tech has really invaded our lives and how we've willingly or unknowingly given a huge amount of privacy up. I thought that was a really good use of the update. However, none of that is addressing the number one problem I have with this movie, which is just, why? You know, why remake this and abandon canon when the series has never been so good? Curse of Chucky was seriously good. It was back to the scares, it dropped the comedy, it had a very different look, it was so clean, And even though it was a really low budget film, I would say it's one of the most effective, possibly the best entry in the entire Child's Play series. In rebooting and revamping, it was making the case that Chucky can be seriously scary. Cult of Chucky was released in 2018 and follows on from Curse of Chucky. It's following up on that lore, and it's taking the series once again in a direction that you don't expect. I really enjoyed the look. Again, it's stylistically very different from the others in the series, but I absolutely love this. In short, what I'm saying is with Curse of Chucky and Cult of Chucky, the Child's Play series has never been so good, and Don Mancini, the creator of the Child's Play series, has never been so creative. So given that, why are we doing what feels like basically a derivative remake right now? These two latest entries are bold departures in both style and convention, and they're also different from the horror genre overall. You know, the current trend is for series to start ditching their canon and to reboot in order to simplify things or to attract new audiences, and in contrast to that, Child's Play has reached back into the canon, into the lore, and it's really paying off. And it's really paying dividends to loyal fans of the series whilst not alienating new viewers. It's absolutely fantastic at the moment. Basically, the Child's Play series has never been so good, so why go with a boring and cynical remake? I haven't done the research on this, but was the studio about to lose the license? Is this just a Fantastic Four situation? Anyway, wrapping this all up in summation, it wasn't entirely bad, but overall I hated this movie. I cannot recommend it at all. I hated the jaded, cynical Gen X ironic tone. It felt like it was mocking a genre I love and saying that a franchise I adore was stupid. Basically felt like a cruel and cynical cash-in. Even though I would not recommend it, if you are curious and you happen to have Netflix in the UK, then still do not watch this movie. It was terrible and awful. Read the Locke Lamora books instead. There are 3 of them. The 4th is coming out very soon. They are absolutely fantastic, and I want a TV adaptation. The 4th one is coming out soon. Scott Lynch, get on this, please. I need this series to continue. I need updates. I don't usually do reviews, but I felt like I had something to say here that I hadn't seen replicated in other videos. If this was something you enjoyed, please like the video, and if you have seen Child's Play 2019, I would love to hear your thoughts below in the comments. Did you have the same impression of the tone? And especially if you've seen Cult and Curse of Chucky, I would like to know what you thought of the remake in light of those. Lastly, inevitably, you know I'm going to mention it, I am a tiny channel and new subscribers are an absolute delight. If you've seen a couple of my videos and you like what I do, subscribe, let me know. I really appreciate it. Thanks y'all. Cheers.
Doing it or watching it, I used to feel real Horrorshow.